Good morning. I'm Susan Chambers. I'm serving as the worship leader this morning. Our theme this month is pluralism. Our guest speaker is Tracy Frederick Corcoran. She's the education director of the Greater Mankato Diversity Council, and she'll be speaking on pluralism in education. And she's worked in this area for a while. We had a little blurb about her in our weekly update. She's part of the Greater Mankato Diversity Council. She's got 15 years experience in education as a teacher, instructional coach, and curriculum leader. She believes that our differences make us stronger and that together we can continue to build community that celebrates and embraces the beautiful diversity around us. She was born and raised in Mankato and is a graduate of the Mankato Area Public Schools. She holds multiple degrees from MSU as well, Mankato, and she's excited to support the programs of the Greater Mankato Diversity Council that offers to schools, businesses, and communities. Our Reverend Diana McLean will be with us next on June 2nd. Tony Filipovich will present next Sunday for our traditional Memorial Weekend service. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Mankato. All of you, whether joining us in person or on Zoom, you're welcome in this time that we make sacred together. We extend an especially warm welcome to you if this is your first time here. We know and appreciate it can be difficult to cross the threshold of a new church for the first time, whether in person or online. We also humbly acknowledge that before European colonization, the Dakota peoples were stewards of the land here on which our fellowship's building site sits. They teach us the land does not belong to any of us, though it holds the history of our conflicts and our attempts at reconciliation. And we commit to an ongoing and intentional journey of humble connection with Indigenous people, characterized by understanding our shared history, accepting responsibility for restoration, and building relationship in the here and now. Thus, we seek to be good relatives. Sunday morning is a team effort, and I'm grateful to all who have been willing to serve. There was a slide prior to the service thanking everyone who contributed to this morning's efforts, and please add your own personal thanks when you see someone after the service or during our coffee hour. If you're attending by Zoom, you're welcome to stay and chat in the chat room or to visit together. For those attending in person, we have coffee and refreshments, and I always take a peek at that table. It looked great this morning. Down in the fellowship hall, and you're warmly invited to join us. We have two announcements this morning. The first is, as you know, the UUFM engaged in a rummage sale over the weekend, and that rummage sale brought in around $1,600. Thank you to all who worked on that. Our second announcement is today from noon until 1, the Pride team is going to be showing the last 3 videos on trans etiquette in the meeting room downstairs. The team says they had a great discussion last month while viewing the first 3, and they look forward to repeating that today. Attendance at the first event is not a requirement to view the videos today. All are welcome. Together, Let us kindle a flame, symbolizing our co-creation of sacred space, both at home and in this place made sacred by years of love. Those on Zoom, if you do, please write in the chat that a chalice is lit on your street. And everyone, please say with me the words which you can find on your pew card, and I believe it's up on the slide. We are a welcoming people of diverse beliefs who commit to nourish the spirit from behind and fear and build unity. Make this flame kindle on this star today and every day to love beyond belief. That looks a little better. Our call to worship this morning is a poem by Rumi. The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrow who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been set as a guide from beyond. Come, let us worship together. Thank you, Nancy. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Tracy Frederick Corcoran, the Education Director of the Greater Mankato Diversity Council, speaking on pluralism in education. We're glad to have you with us this morning, Tracy.
Good morning. Well, I'm honored to be here with you. As I was sharing this morning, my work with the Diversity Council, as well as the last 15 years I've been part of public education, is my purpose work. It's why I get up every day. It's an opportunity for us to create beautiful environments to send our students, to send the next generation, to lead us forward, not only as a school community and as a community, but as a nation. And so I'm excited to share with you some thoughts, some opportunities for reflection and contemplation as we think about pluralism in education, how the work that you do together as a community creates an opportunity for that work to spread into our Mankato community and surrounding communities. So as we begin our time together, my invitation to you is to lean in with open hearts, open minds, under the guidance of love and curiosity, to grow together in empathy, compassion, and understanding. So to start, I'd like to share an excerpt from a story. It's called Just Ask. So this is a story written by Sonia Sotomayor, one of our Supreme Court justices. And it's a story that we use in our Promoting Respect workshops, which take place in all of our local schools from age kindergarten through 5th grade. And so each classroom has the opportunity for a facilitator to come into their classroom from our community and talk about diversity, talk about inclusion, and truly help students embrace that idea of the uniqueness that's within them. So as Sonia Sotomayor, you may or may not know, she is someone who is diagnosed with juvenile diabetes. And so the premise of this book is her story, and including wide ranges of abilities that are both visible and invisible for students to walk through this story like a garden. And so thinking about how each of us has unique differences, this is a piece at the end of the story that I'd like you to consider. Imagine if all the plants in this garden were exactly the same. Like, what if we could only grow peas? And as you can imagine, the students have an audible, "Oh, just peas?" I don't like that. That would mean no strawberries or cucumbers or carrots. It might also mean no trees or roses or sunflowers. Just like in our garden, all the ways we are different make our neighborhood, our whole world really, more interesting and fun. And just like all of these plants, each of us has unique powers to share with the world and make it more interesting and richer. So as we share this story with our students, they embody that idea of I am me, and I show up in this classroom community embracing the unique differences with each of my peers, with each teacher, and then that idea expands into our schools as we consider all of the backgrounds. As Governor Walz's inaugural speech talked about, he talks about our students come to us with a wide range of backgrounds. We don't control those backgrounds. We know that their futures start at birth, but we know that what happens in our classrooms matters. What happens in our school communities has an impact. And so in this garden of education, diversity is not a challenge, but it's a source of beauty. And when we lean into the idea of pluralism in education, it's more than just celebrating the beauty of diversity. It's about creating engagement and community within our classrooms, within our schools, and our communities. Just as a garden thrives with a variety of flowers or plants, our society flourishes when we honor the myriad of beliefs, cultures, and experiences that make us unique. Imagine a classroom where students from different backgrounds come together, share their stories, and learn from one another. As I read this story with our students, that's exactly what they did. I was filled with hope as these 7 and 8-year-olds grasped the ideas, understood these concepts, and modeled and showed me what it looks like to engage with their peers who have unique qualities that make them important and valuable. And they do this each and every day they come into our schools. Pluralism teaches us the invaluable lesson of learning from one another, of broadening our horizons and gaining new insights. Pluralism exposes students and adults alike to a variety of perspectives, fostering critical thinking, empathy, compassion, and understanding. Pluralism not only enriches the educational experience, but it prepares our students to navigate the complexities of our interconnected world. I don't know about you, having been a graduate of Mankato West High School, schools don't look the same as they did as I was growing up. And that's a beautiful thing. Our community doesn't look the same way as it did when I grew up. And that's also a beautiful thing. And I think in that beauty, we also know there can be challenge. So as I invited our students to close their eyes and picture a garden in their mind, their pictures were filled with beautiful, vibrant colors, thriving flowers and plants, and unlimited potential. There wasn't a single kid that talked about the weeds that also grow in our garden. They didn't talk about the heat burning the tips of the leaves or the animals coming and enjoying my carrots before I got to them. But just like this garden, my hope is that our classrooms are also beautiful, vibrant spaces filled with joy, love, and opportunity. But let's lean into the challenges for a moment. The past 5 years presented our educational system with unprecedented challenges. Challenges that have tested our resilience, challenges that have tested our resolve. From the upheaval I lived through firsthand, brought on by a global pandemic, to the conflicts in the school boardrooms, to the persistent barriers to equity and inclusion. We face trials as an educational system that has shaken the very core of our communities. While these challenges might seem daunting, within these challenges, I choose to see the opportunities for growth, the opportunities for transformation. I've seen firsthand the power of collective effort and unwavering commitments in our school communities. Like I said, I had a front row seat in these conflicts. And I would be lying if I said that it didn't cut me to my core, force me into a state of reflection, and ultimately change the trajectory of my life and my career. However, I too, to this day, still believe, as Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon in which we can use to change the world. It's imperative that we confront these different approaches to how we might encounter navigating these challenges. We talked about the collective effort and unwavering commitment, and I do believe that we have the power to change our educational communities. I saw it happen. As I was leading a school district through the global pandemic, we changed the way we delivered education overnight. We came together as a community. Was it the best education? In that moment, it was the best we had. We made sure our students had food. We made sure our students had access to continue their education through means that we'd never even considered. And when I think about that time and I reflect on all of the uncertainty, it showed us that transformation is possible. And so thinking about how can this collective effort continue to play out, there's 3 ways I saw this happen. The first approach was the we're right, you're wrong approach. This approach, unfortunately, is all too common in education and our broader society. It's characterized by that rigid belief in one's own perspective or ideology, often at the expense of dismissing or devaluing alternate viewpoints. These were conversations I had in the boardroom when I had community members who didn't want us to have stories that had a protagonist who identified within our LGBTQ community. In the garden of education, this approach stifles growth and prevents the seeds of pluralism from taking root. When we close ourselves off to differing perspectives, we deny ourselves the opportunity for growth and understanding. My hope is that instead, we cultivate humility and openness, recognizing that true wisdom often lies in the willingness to consider another perspective that might be different from our own. The second approach I encountered often was, well, as long as you're sincere. While sincerity is certainly important and definitely commendable, alone, it isn't sufficient to foster pluralism in education. This approach suggests that as long as someone's sincere and sincerely believes in their perspective, that's the perspective that should be respected regardless of its validity or impact on others. However, sincerity does not absolve us from the responsibility to critically examine our beliefs and engage in dialogue with one another. The work of the Diversity Council, we don't ask people to change their beliefs. We don't ask them to change their values. What we offer is a space to hold conversation, to hold space for one another, and to be willing to coexist together in a way that is beyond tolerance. It is in a way that values true acceptance and creates a community in spite of our differences, because we believe that our differences make us stronger. In a garden of education, sincerity must be coupled with a humility, curiosity, and a willingness to engage with diverse perspectives in order to truly cultivate a flourishing learning community. Our elementary students this year continue to model that for me over and over and over. I see it in my own 2 children, one of whom just finished his freshman year of college, and another one is finishing up her years in middle school. They see the world around us as this vast opportunity to continue to learn, to continue to grow. So I offer you a third approach that I navigated throughout my work in education. This is we think we're right, but there may be other possibilities. This approach embodies the essence of pluralism. It acknowledges that while we might hold certain beliefs or perspectives, we recognize the possibility that there are other valid ways of understanding the world. In the garden of education, this approach encourages intellectual curiosity, openness to new ideas. It invites us to engage in dialogue with humility, recognizing that our understanding's always evolving and that we all have much to learn, and we can always learn from others. By embracing this approach, we create space for dialogue, growth, and mutual respect within our educational communities and our communities at large. As we consider pluralism in education, I want us to be mindful of these approaches and their implications for our learning environments. As we strive to cultivate a garden in which each and every student has the opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive, let's consider our work to advancing education as educators, as parents, and as community members. So I'm a firm believer that action starts from within. So I invite you to take time to reflect on your own beliefs, perspectives, and attitudes towards pluralism in education. Consider how you can cultivate humility, openness, and empathy in your actions with others who hold different views. Holding space for discomfort, being vulnerable to just ask, which is Sonia Sotomayor's message through this whole book. Just ask questions coming from a space of curiosity and wonder. And honoring that this is a lifelong journey. I invite you to engage in learning and contemplation that deepens your understanding of pluralism and its importance in education. Whether that's through meditation, prayer, journaling, taking those moments of quiet introspection to explore how you can contribute to creating inclusive learning environments. And now you might be thinking, Tracy, I don't walk into the schools every day. Correct. But you interact with people all around you. And so when I walked into this space, I felt pluralism. I felt that welcome. I felt that inclusion. And so continuing to share that as you leave these four walls, as you engage with friends, with family, with children and adults, this is where our work happens. This is where the ripple effect is felt. Because all of those people, their students, come into our schools, and I think it's such a magical place. So as you think about your own journey, thinking about those meaningful dialogues, thinking about collaboration, maybe attending local events that promote inclusion, diversity, and consider putting your reflection and contemplation into action by actively promoting pluralism and education in your community and beyond. One thing that I'm very proud of in our local school communities is the increased expansion of curricula that includes various viewpoints. We're no longer telling a single story. We're providing multiple vantage points. We're providing multiple windows. We're providing multiple mirrors for students to not only see themselves in what they're learning at schools, but to also see others. And that's through books, that's through media, that's through opportunities to just engage in some productive discourse and have conversations and collaborate with one another. You could also support initiatives that foster interfaith and intercultural dialogue. This is something we're looking to do more of in the Diversity Council, of how do we bring people together? How do we hold space for these conversations? I loved hearing about the event later today to really honor and support and learn about our LGBTQ plus community. It's a great example of how we can walk forward in this work together. We can also champion policies that promote equity and access in education for all. And now I'm the first to say, politics was never something I thought I was going to become a part of. Here I find myself sitting in school board rooms, sitting doing nonprofit work, and noticing and learning the importance of the policies that are put in front of our, within our state and within our society. And here I have to give a little selfless ploy, too. If you are looking to get involved, we're always looking for facilitators at the Diversity Council for our Promoting Respect workshops, as well as volunteers who want to continue this work. So there you go, there's my selfless plug. So in addition, this is, like I said, this is a lifelong journey. So thinking about our own commitment to our ongoing learning and growth and reflection, staying informed about current issues, and hearing it from multiple vantage points. When you think about those policies and practices and how they show up, it's so fascinating to me how one policy can show up in so many different ways depending on which school I'm interacting with. The interpretation of leadership, the implementation within a school community. So even though they're reading the same policy, how that comes into action can look a wide range of ways. So that's something that has allowed me permission to stay engaged in that policy development, in those practices, even though that's not my favorite space to live in. But it's that opportunity to continue to challenge you to expand your understanding of diverse perspectives. I will never know all the answers, but that's part of the fun. So inviting ourselves as we move forward, that we're not seeking to arrive at a destination. Rather, this is a journey towards understanding, and our world is ongoing and ever-changing. So each of us has a role to play. As I said, this community is a beautiful example of pluralism in action. The way you come together, the values that you live by, the community that's felt in this space. Fostering that culture of respect and understanding lays a foundation for meaningful dialogue and collaboration. So pluralism in education extends beyond just tolerance of diverse perspective. It necessitates active engagement and dialogue. So as I reflect back on my days working with a school board, not in Mankato, that had very different beliefs and values than I did, that challenged me to have to hold space for those that disagreed with my perspective, to not go back to that initial approach of I'm right, you're wrong. Having to hold space, having to humanize people who weren't as far on their journey as perhaps I was. And so when I think about those conversations, when I think about those dialogue, I had to hear them in order for them to hear me. And while we would often agree to disagree and we would have to move forward in the work, knowing that we weren't on the same page yet, when we put our students in the center, when we took the ideas of pluralism and we created these communities in our classrooms in which our students could thrive, like I said, it's beautiful and magical. So there's always going to be disagreement, but I see those as opportunities for learning rather than just conflict. Cultivating that culture of dialogue and collaboration, we create spaces where diverse voices are heard and valued, and that makes our educational institutions better for everyone. So just like I did with our second grade students, prior to reading Sonia Sotomayor's beautiful book, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes or just find a soft, gentle gaze. And I want you to picture a beautiful garden in your mind, activating your senses. I want you to picture yourself walking through this garden, feeling the soft earth beneath your feet, inhaling the fragrant scent of blooming flowers, seeing the vibrant colors of the beautiful plants, and listening to the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. As you immerse yourself in this tranquil scene, let it serve as a reminder of the boundless potential that lies in each of us to nurture the garden of education. Just as a gardener tends to their plants with care and attention, we must also nurture the minds of our students with love and compassion, cultivating a learning environment where diversity is cherished, empathy flourishes, and understanding blossoms. So as I invite you back, we reflect on our time together, leaning into the idea of pluralism with courage, compassion, and conviction. Let us commit ourselves to sowing the seeds of a more inclusive, equitable, and flourishing educational landscape for generations to come. Together, we have the power to shape a future where every child has the opportunity to thrive, where minds are open to new possibilities, and where the beauty of pluralism is embraced with open arms. So today, as we depart from this sacred space, may we carry with us the wisdom and the inspiration, and may we walk boldly together into this world, ready to plant seeds of change to cultivate brighter tomorrow. May the spirit of love, unity, and justice, and hope guide us in this journey. Thank you.
As we extinguish the sanctuary chalice, please extinguish your chalice at home and say the words with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.